What's up, gang? This is a quick follow-up video to my unwrapping of the Space One Aurora 5-inch stretched X frame. Instead of doing a build video, I'm just going to tell you what I did and go over it. I think there's a few special considerations to point out before you start building this. So let's get started. First off, I want to say that this is a clean looking quad. It turned out really nice. I'm really happy with it. So start off with the motors. You're gonna need to go with a flat bottom motor, one that doesn't have a C-clip or E-clip, C-clip, or anything hanging out of the bottom of the motor, because they didn't leave you much room to have anything hanging below the motors. I went with the Hyperlite floss motors. I think most Hyperlite motors are flat on the bottom, especially the newer ones. So another thing is you're going to need a little bit longer hardware. This is a 5.5mm frame, so I had to do some digging around. I found some 10mm M3s, and I had to use a 1mm spacer to go in there, and it ended up being right about perfect for this. Got a little bit hanging up here at the top, but it's not even close to the motor winding, so you're going to need a little bit longer hardware than your normal ones that come with any motors. ESCs. I went with the DYS 20 amp ESC. With this, the motor tabs stick out a little bit too far for this frame, I believe. The back, all I had to do was route the wires around the standoff. And in the front is where I had a problem. Their stock camera mount had a piece that went all the way down for structural integrity, but it wouldn't allow me to put it in because it was hitting the ESC tabs. So I had to take my Dremel and notch out a little spot here to get that to go in. But it's in, and it feels pretty sturdy. I'm sure it's gonna be different in a crash, but we'll have to figure that one out when we get there. Camera, I went with a Runcam Micro, and this is a file I designed to hold the Runcam Micro. It's a pod. The camera slips right into the back of it, and you mount it exactly how you would normally. And that was just perfect amount of space to fill up the small gaps that were on the side here. So I'm thinking that this one was really meant for a mini Runcam or a Foxeer Mini. But with this pod, it went in there pretty good. I think it's going to protect it quite nicely. And I'll put a link to the Thingiverse file in the description. What else? I went with battery on bottom. I don't think I would have wanted to mess with the battery on the top of this thing. Most of my batteries look way too big for this, so I went battery on bottom. Talk about the stack. Plenty of room for all kinds of business in here. Like I said, DYS 20 amp 4-in-1 mates with the DYS F4. I got my XSR in there, and then my eSheen BTX03. It all fit in there quite nicely. It's very clean. Let's see, total weight on this build. Let's get this going. 230. 4 props is 17. 16. 17. Let's just call it 17. We got 247 on this build. I went pretty conservative with the motors and the camera, so I figured it would be a little bit lighter than that, but is what it is. So I'm going to take this out to the field and do a flight video, and we'll be back in a second. Alright, just got back from the park, flew one pack on it. Battery tested was the CNHL 100C 1300 milliamp 4 cell. Very nice battery. The props I used were the HQ 5x4.8x3 V1S's. Motors came down nice and cool with Betaflight 3.2, dynamic filter on, PT1 filter on, all 3-notch filters turned off. That's because I have my flight controller soft mounted as well as the ESC soft mounted too. I drilled the holes out and put gummies in there, and I think it helps out a lot, especially if the two are stacked together. It easily transfer vibration, so I just soft mounted the whole thing. I think that it performed really well, especially with these smaller motors. These are only 2204 motors, but it had some get up and go. Still working on my OSD. I was just too impatient. I wanted to get out and fly before the sun went down. So anyways, I think this is going to be a very capable racer. I'll set up some gates or record my next race session, and I'll upload another video. So take care. Hope you enjoyed it.